All right, we have our next batch of photos here. Let's go through and see what we need to clean up. Really nothing on this one. Maybe a little bit of hair. Not too much. Just get rid of just a few of these little flyaways. Go, not too bad. I think we're good. Go ahead and save that. Move on to the next one. Oh, okay, this is another boot shot. I'm happy with that. There's really nothing to it. I'm going to close. Actually, was this the one that I just closed in the last video and didn't save, and then just reopened it because I had already forgotten. That is one, as I mentioned, that is one downside to going through and touching every single photo, is being able to keep track of them. That's why I used the modified to know, get an idea which one had been updated. These flyaways you can see, but I like that because it has, the wind. I was doing that, but it really contrasts against the sky. So I'm not going to remove any of those. I think that adds to the photo. This, we will come in and clean this little background. These are just logs that were in the background. And just a little bit of distraction, I think. So I'm going to remove those. Oops. So zooming in, I accidentally filled with the background color over here. Didn't mean to do that. I think we are good. Could clean up some of these. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and clean some of these up. Not all of them. We'll clean some of them up. I'm going to do it on a new layer. Because I like having some of them, but that many, maybe that's a little excessive. Which, that's how it goes. Some of them off kind of in the distance, leave those. And we'll separate some of these out. So I like the idea. One of the reasons I keep some of these, I'd clean some of them out if they're distracting, but I also like the idea of kind of telling the story of really what she was doing, which, dancing around to create some of these silhouettes a little bit. And that movement and telling the story of that movement in the shots, I think this on the ground does that, but it was a little excessive, right? So we had a little bit, and then we just cleaned it up a little bit and get rid of some of those. So okay, we'll get rid of this bruise here. If you remember from earlier videos, unfortunately, she had a little bruise that sometimes happens. And we'll go ahead and do this on new layer just in case, since we already cleaned up some of the skin, but get rid of some of these flyaways just so they're not quite so prominent. Go. There we go. So we still have some, and that's fine because, it is windy where we have that. But again, just getting rid of some of them so it's not quite as, not quite as much there, right? So you still have some. You still have a little bit there that I like. Keep that. On to the next one. So for this, I'm going to get rid of this stuff in the foreground here. I like the footprints around her feet, but this was from a previous shot when some of the ones that we had just edited. So what we did, a little behind the scenes, what we had done on the shoot was the sunset is behind, so she's looking into the sun here, right? So we get a nice golden hour look on her, which is why her skin is so golden from the golden hour, the sunset. So we did some of the shots facing into the sun, and then we flipped around, basically swapped spots. So I was standing here to take the pictures of her into the sun, and then she was over here, and then we just swapped spots in order to get those shots. So just cleaning up some of the extra footprints, because I like her footprints here. Technically, some of those are mine as well, but you'll never really know that. The idea is you see footprints around her, she's moving around, and it tells that story. But we can clean up this here to show that, she was moving around that area and didn't really go beyond that. That's the idea is. Because technically this is from a different shot. Not that you know that if I didn't tell you, but that's okay. We'll clean that up. Oh, it looks like Photoshop does this sometimes. So you can see it's not updating. I think we got this one done. So I'm going to close out of it and see if the next shot is fine. Yeah. Sometimes it does that. I think it's a graphics card thing. I have super powerful graphics cards. And I'd say that multiples. I do have multiple graphics cards in an SLI bridge that I have on this system. To be able to handle more powerful things in Photoshop and video editing, Premiere and After Effects, and all those fun things. So I don't think it's a lack of power. I think it really just has to do with sometimes, tech breaks. And as we saw before, I showed in an earlier video the RAM used. So I can show it now. You can see it's gone up again a little bit more. So now we're sitting at almost 43 and a half, almost 43 to 44 gigs worth of RAM that Photoshop is using. And I wonder if maybe that's actually, now that I do this is something else here too. It looks like I have Steam running in the background. Let me go ahead and close out of that. I don't need that open. That's a side thing. It's not really relevant to Photoshop here, but we don't need that running and using up processing power while we're editing. So I'll close out of that. All right. We got our edit done on this one. Continue on. Those are the kind of things that normally, if I'm recording a very structured tutorial, right, I would not include that. But sometimes that's exactly what I wanted to do on this channel, is be more casual, more, you're going to come across those things, have processes in the background. I didn't realize that Steam was using, 8% of my GPU for absolutely no reason. It's just the program's running in the background. I don't have it open. I can't remember the last time I used Steam. Probably could just uninstall it, but those are things that realistically happen and come across. So I want to include as much of that as I can, those little things, and how to work around them, or even just to notice them. As you can see, I had the task manager up. So that is something I'll do a lot, where as I'm working, I'll have the task manager up, especially if I'm recording while I'm working, because recording then takes an extra little bit on top of just working anyway. And if there is something that happens where there's an issue with processing power, whatever it is, that can actually damage the recording, but it can also just cause things to freeze, and it's not what you want. I think we're good there. Just got that little bit cleaned up, and then really nothing else. I love that golden hour light. There's a reason why it's popular. Again, we could remove some of those little moles and things like that, but those are the kind of things that I try to keep in. If it is something that the client wants removed, of course I will, but typically, you can see those there. I'm going to leave that stuff there. I'm just going to remove some of the redness, which I realize also comes from some of the golden hour there too, but we'll just clean that up just a little bit. super minimal. Maybe some of these flyaways too. So let's do this. We'll come up here, paint these in. And then some of these here as well. Some of these you get, I don't even know if you can see those. I can see those on my screen. Just some really, really thin flyaways, probably just one or two strands that realistically you're not going to see. I mean, we're at 33% right now, so you would see it if it was on a print or something like that, but most cases, we got rid of most of the big ones. There's obviously still some small ones in there, which is fine. This is the kind of thing you could clean up forever, but this is where you kind of make the decision of, is it worth cleaning that up, or I got rid of most of the big ones. So this is before and after. You still see that there's a little bit in there because obviously the wind is whipping her hair around. You know, that's something that happens there. So it's a balance of cleaning up, but not cleaning up so much that it looks like you're cleaning up. Because editing photos, particularly when you're doing portraits and things, can definitely be something that can be overdone. I've seen so many, especially when it comes to skin cleanup and stuff. A lot of times people just end up looking very plastic and not real. Almost like, an AI generated image. It's like we're taking photos and trying to make them look like AI, which is kind of funny and ironic, I think. But there definitely is a time and place for cleanup. And for skin cleanup, sometimes, you want that more of a perfect image, that kind of thing. But I try to have shots be as natural and realistic as I can for that. Okay, so we got another batch here done. So let's go ahead and end this video while these save, and then I'll open up the next batch and we'll continue on editing. See you then.